There's serious gold in those military grade connectors. Come on, let's dive in and I'll show you how I get at those pins. Remember, you should always be on the lookout for the shark, especially on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And the safest way to do that is by hitting that like button, subscribe to this channel, and click that bell with the all notice so you don't miss a single episode. Don't forget to tell your friends so they can be watching out for the shark as well. Hey YouTube, it's the Shark Scrapper. Okay, we are going to talk about military grade connectors. These are what I'm referring to. There's the male variety, there's the female variety. This is the face that would be on the outside. Now, you'll find these on high-end military equipment and some high-end commercial equipment that requires a lot of pin connectors, but also tends to require pressure tolerant, water resistant type fittings. All right, so you can see there's a rubber body in here and the pins are in the rubber, and then it's inside this aluminum casing. Now, one of the problems here is getting the rubber and the pins out. You can sometimes successfully just pull the pins out by grabbing hold of the back after you've taken a chisel and broken them off of the boards. But frequently what happens is when you try to use your pliers to pull the pins out of the rubber while it's still in the casing it'll break off and you'll end up with a flat back that you can't grab hold of, and the pin is still inside. All right, so what I have been doing is cutting the aluminum frame in half. I tried to just pop the rubber out and keep the whole frame like that, right? Well, that turns out to be a lot harder than you might think. Now, the reason that turned out to be difficult is because many of these have a ridge with a gasket, usually an O-ring, for the pressure tolerance, and some of them are literally screwed in here. Glued in here. So the problem that you run into is you're trying to break a seal that is either glued or press fitted into something that is designed to prevent the rubber face from moving back and forth inside of here. No problem. You take your edge cutters, you cut the sucker in half, edge grinder, cut the thing in half, and then what you end up with is the body, the rubber body, with the pins, and it makes it much easier then. There's no pressure squeezing this thing to keep the pins in, so it's easier to pull the pins out from the back side. Real quick, I will go ahead and try to pop out a couple pins here and give you an idea what we're talking about for the types of pins that you'll find in here. This is classic male pin arrangement, and we just put the needle nose, I just put the needle nose down on top of it, give it a tug, pin comes out like that, and what you're left with is a nice long gold plated pin. You may still get some of the black rubber on it, that's okay, but you can see you've got a nice gold plated pin. And let's just move it over here where you can see it without me having to drop it, right? So what you end up with is this nice long gold-plated pin. The female connectors, not quite as robust when you pull them out, but still there's gold plating. Sometimes you'll even notice that the gold plating is only on the inside of the female connectors. So the female connectors, if they become too problematic, I just say the hell with them because there isn't enough gold in them to worry about. Gold plating is usually very heavy on these, especially the male pins. So I think it's definitely worth going after it if you are into the gold recovery mode. All right, I'm going to go over to where I've got my grinder set up, and we're going to cut some housing so you can see it's really not that hard to do if you have an edge grinder. All right, so I have safety goggles on. I'm using my heavy gloves. I have a long sleeve shirt on, long trousers. I could use a vise. If you have an easy vise, that's the best way because it's a much more stable arrangement. But if you don't have a vise, no problem. You just take some large grips, grab hold of it. Don't squeeze down too hard. You don't want to bend all those pens. All you're doing is stabilizing it. All right? And then we're just going to cut it straight across there. All right, and then we're just going to cut it straight across there. Then we flip it over, and we get the other side. And when you're lucky, they just fall apart like that. Sometimes they take a little convincing. And you want to go in here and get this O-ring out. All right, so there's that O-ring that I was talking about, and that's part of what is part of what causes the challenge in trying to pop these things out without cutting them. Okay. That I got a runaway gold pin. Don't want to lose you. All right. Right, so with the female connector, now the problem is usually they don't want to easily come apart because these tend to be glued for some reason, more than the males, so they tend to take a little more convincing to give it up. There we go, come on. Okay, all right. Oops. Almost got the camera that time. And sometimes it just does not want to come out. So you can see part of the issue is, especially with these female connectors, for some reason, they tend to be glued as well as having an O-ring. So part of it is you got to break that glued surface and the O-ring surface. Yeah, that was useful because we also got one of the gold pins out. So you can also see with the gold pin that you've got the back side is got the gold plating on it. But the front side, where the male pin was gold plated all the way across the length of it, the female pin has exterior gold plating on the back end, but this business end of it, the gold plating is only on the inside. So again, if you don't want to mess with the female connectors, there isn't a whole lot of gold plating in there anyway to worry about. Because as you can see, they are sometimes not cooperative. Let's try something here once. Yeah, it's still being a real pain, even after I cut it down to a quarter size now. It still just does not want to cooperate. So the female ones can be problematic. This gives you a really good view. Here you get a really good side view of the way these things are inserted, and you can see there's the O-ring, and sometimes that's glued, plus there's another ring surface here. So that's why these things can be so hard to get out unless you cut the body open. Now the other thing that I have been experimenting with is soaking the connectors in acetone. So this has been soaking since November 24th. It's December 11th, and you can see there's not much of anything happening. The numbers are still obvious on the rubber, so the rubber is not degrading at all, and that's kind of to be expected. You know, these military grade connectors are made to be tough. All right, pressure resistant, chemical resistant, and boy howdy, are they ever. So even trying a little chemical work here, I'm not very hopeful. I'm going to give this another week or two of soaking, and then I'll check the rubber, and it's because the rubber hasn't changed in its malleability at all yet. So I'm just not expecting a whole lot of change there either. So that's been a fun experiment as well. Well, scrappers, there you have it. It's not that hard to get at those gold pins, and given the serious gold plating that's on those pins, I recommend that you go for it if you're into gold recovery. This is the Shark. I'm going to start prowling around for my next prey.